Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see here on our channel, my Instagram, or our website. Reach out to me directly, tmosso at thewatchbox.com. Launched in 2018, 1,000 pieces, 42 millimeters in stainless steel. This is the Jaeger-LeCoultre Polaris Memovox, part of the new full-line Polaris offering from Jaeger-LeCoultre. This was the flagship as well as the closest to the original 1968 Polaris E859 diving alarm. Now, this is not designed to be a tribute watch. This is a modern take on the Polaris, and we'll talk about the differences as we go along. Important to note, this 1,000 piece limited edition is 42 millimeters in stainless steel, just like the original. In terms of profile, 15.9 millimeters thick, and from lug to lug, a surprisingly cropped 48.5, so it wears well on a smaller wrist with a spacing of 21 millimeters between the lugs. Throw it on the wrist real quick. My wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, wears it easily. As you can see, it's not the thinnest of watches, but it's nowhere near as thick as the old Polaris or the 2008 tribute to Polaris. And you can see that because the lugs are short, stubby, and tightly downturned, it wears well on a smaller wrist. I could recommend it for a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference, maybe even 13 and a half if your wrist is more oval than round. Let's take a quick look at the hardware and the software. This is where we begin to diverge from the historic Polaris. First, it's not a tropic style strap. Second, it's a conforming strap. It traces the arc of the case as well as the slope of the lugs to show no daylight and give you an integrated, almost bracelet-like aesthetic. As you can see, it tapers off considerably and thins out for souplesse and flexibility. There's a pyramid or sort of hobnail that's embossed on the top with satinated edges, and on the underside you can see that there's a little bit of a webbing pattern, some evacuated hollows to soften the strap and allow the wrist to breathe on a hot day. You get a full deployment clasp here, not a pin buckle, and these days JLC seems to do a lot of pin buckles, so it's nice to get a full folding clasp, security while donning or removing at bedside. Quick note, this is a special quick release clasp. You see push here, you push there, and it allows you to remove the clasp without tools from the strap for easier strap swapping. Now, rotating over to the case profile, you can see that there's a highly integrated look about the lugs and the straps, but in case profile we have a fair nod to the vintage Polaris, probably the most, I would say, thoroughly reproduced original design anywhere on the watch, as this is fairly true to the original design with minimally beveled lugs, squared off ends, satin mid-case, and then a minimalist bezel that acts effectively as a silver halo for a very large crystal and a very large dial. Now you can see there are JLC logos, not the old quadrille or quadrant etching pattern that you would have seen on the original Polaris. These are all JLC crowns to remind you that it's JLC's own case made in-house. The originals used the Irvin Piquerez super compressor case that was featured on innumerable others. This is JLC's own design. As ever, the middle crown is used to adjust the bidirectional rotating diving bezel. You can turn it either direction. And then we have one crown used for the quick set for the date, as well as winding and setting the alarm. And then you have another crown used for winding and setting the movement. Caliber 956 inside the case. First, let's talk about a major difference here. The tribute to Polaris and the Polaris 68 featured crystals in thermoplastic, so crystals that were plexiglass. Now this is a sapphire, so you can see that it has the same box section as the original, but the original was about that thick and that high above the dial. This allows the watch to be thinner and more scratch resistant. The Polaris Automatic Date and the Polaris Memovox are the only models in the current collection that have this ecru fauxtina, which I find warm and rather endearing, so my usual objections to fauxtina don't obtain here. You can see there are several different finishes on the dial, as we have a sort of granular or pebbly finish to the hour track with applique indices and tri-Arabic numerals, and then there's a sort of satin finish, a sort of matte finish to the bezel itself and then the center dial. Now the center dial allows you to set the alarm, and I've set it for 12 dead, so first, note hacking seconds. The watch also includes a quick set, both features not included on the Polaris 68 back in the day. It is also much louder and much more sonorous than the original Polaris, which was more of a rattle. This one has a sustaining ring thanks to a hanging gong in the case, so it's not simply a striker against the case flank internally. 200 meters water resistant. It is a real ISO 6425 diver, so you can dive with it. And I should also mention that inside the case, that caliber 956 debuted back in 2008 with the tribute Polaris. A note about the 50-year anniversary. You might be saying, didn't the Polaris debut in 1965? And indeed it did. The prototypes actually came out in 1963, but the most I would say, recognized and the definitive dial that looks like this essentially came out in 1968, and it's known as the Polaris 68. So we are celebrating 50 years since that submodel. You can also see the old diving crown logo of the super compressor case, and then you can see 1 out of 1,000. This is a 1,000 piece limited edition. Inside, 23 joule automatic winding, 45-hour power reserve, hacking and quickset, alarm caliber 956. Now it features Spire gear profiles developed by JLC in conjunction with a consortium of other brands for increased efficiency. More efficient than bidirectional is unidirectional winding, which this watch has, along with ceramic rotor bearings, more efficient than steel and unlubricated. It beats away at 28,800 vibrations per hour, and for further shock resistance, it features a free-sprung balance architecture, that 4 Hz beat rate and free-sprung balance, featuring a laser welded hairspring at the stud and the collet for additional anti-shock timing stability, and all of this has gone through the 1,000 hours control, and you'll see the little logo right at the top, 1,000 hours control. That is a comprehensive test of water resistance, power reserve, winding efficiency, and chronometry. So this watch, which is a modern take on the vintage Polaris, is up to the minute in terms of mechanical refinements. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details. And we're back with the Polaris Memovox. You can see that not just is the bezel loomed, but so too is the disc that indicates the current setting for the alarm. So you can set it at night.